mass circuits, because one of the principal attacks against us right now is that we're allowing Father Basson to celebrate the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass when his conditional ordination by Bishop Ambrose was not accepted, and that his original ordination also has been brought into doubt. And so it brings up the whole question about the validity of the sacraments, and then also a reminder of why we're doing what we're doing. This is once again a reminder of our whole battle of the faith. We've emphasized now for 40 years, now it's 50 years. 50 years since the Council, and 50 years of fighting the battle of the Vatican II. And each time there is a breakaway, there's a problem with the Sedevacantist back in the beginning. In most cases, the issue has to do with something to do with persons. A good example is the Sedevacantist. Father Cyprian, I think, said it the best when he said Sedevacantism really is not a theological error, it's an emotional error. And that's why there are so many varieties of Sedevacantism. We've got the Calcisiacum theses, every kind of theses, that he is not a member of the church, that he is materially a pope, not formally a pope, that he might be a pope, might not be a pope, but in the end they all say he's not the pope. And then, as Father Cyprian in the monastery in Silver City used to say, the problem is not really theological, the problem is emotional. And that is, my dad would not feed me poison. My dad would not feed me wickedness and lies. The Holy Father is feeding me poison, wickedness, and lies, therefore, he's not my dad. That's essentially it. And then you go through the deep theological reasons why that's true. In fact, there's many ways, a bit like how it is the nature of, maybe just slide that thing forward, I'm probably too close to it, just slide it forward. Might be the nature of how a woman tends to argue. She's angry at a guy because he's offended her. How many reasons do you want? 1 reason, 2 reasons, 5 reasons, 10 reasons, 20 reasons, and as many reasons as you want, they can come up with the reasons. But in fact, the real reason is that they're upset. Well, the real reason is they can't accept. And Sedevacantism was it started in the late 60s and early 70s, and even though they slowly developed theological treaties to try to back it up, St. Robert Bellarmine, Gerard de Laurier, and the Calcisiacum theses, the essential is still the same. My father would not feed me poison, he fed me poison, he's not my father. And I can't get over that. And then also as time progresses, so many times we've also seen throughout the battle of tradition that my own famous case in a certain parish that I used to be a pastor of for many years, with multiple parishes. But in a famous case, this is an extreme example, but I ran across it multiple times. A man came to me and he said, Father, I know that Sedevacantism is wrong. I finally figured it out. Well, why? That's good. Why is that? Because Father Berry preached against the Boy Scouts. So, if you're against the Boy Scouts, and hit my sons in the Boy Scouts, therefore, Sedevacantism is wrong. I said, well, I don't really like the Boy Scouts either, just for the record. But while it's true that Sedevacantism is wrong, it's not because of the Boy Scouts. So, but what happens though also, I notice also in the battles between the Bishop Sanborn and Bishop Kelly, each saying each other is invalid. So when someone goes to Mass to Father Jenkins, and then they realize that all the took priests are invalid, until they get mad at Father Jenkins. Then they go across the street to Father Chicota and Bishop Dolan, and they discover that they're valid. And then Bishop Kelly, who's not valid. Until they get upset with Bishop Dolan and Father Chicota, and then they become invalid again. Now, these things are not supposed to happen, but it's part of human nature. And we get angry with someone first, And then we find a deep theological reasons why that person is wrong. But what we're supposed to do is follow the doctrine and follow the faith. And then make a decision what to do based on that. And that's what Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre did. He knew that there were infiltrators in the Catholic Church, there were Masons within the Catholic Church, that there were bad men within the Church. Paul VI was probably one of them. And he knew that. But he did not stand up against the Vatican II immediately. He was fighting it within the council. But he didn't realize how bad it was fully until a little bit later. And he didn't stand up. He dealt with Masons, he dealt with bad guys in the church, but he didn't fight the church because of them. However, once those doctrines, the errors and heresies of Vatican II, started to be taught from the pulpits and started to be spread to souls, and then corrupt the faith and morals of our people, then Archbishop Lefebvre, then what he did was he decided to, I think it's that much too far forward. Oh, try moving that speaker, Mr. Bell. Just go that way a bit. I think it's just a step in front of it. Yeah. So you got some control for it. I'm like leaving it this thing. Okay. Yeah. So then, so in any case, getting distracted there. Yeah. Archbishop Lefebvre waited until the doctrine affected the souls, right? Maybe just toning it down. Yeah, we just got to, if you get it on the side, it should work. Yeah, so maybe just unplug that one. Just unplug it, see what that does. Because one of them's probably powerful enough. Unplug it. That one's working fine, right? Is the end business?
Not loud.
You can hear okay, right? You can hear? Right. So then, let's go ahead and just maybe bring that one, just pull the cord out, and just try to bring it forward, maybe. But, in any case, when the level of doctrine, and that's why we say that when the new Vatican II, it turns out the doctrines are contrary to the teachings of our church, religious liberty, humanism, collegiality. And then the new Mass is not just a new liturgy, it's not just a new ceremony, it is a ceremony that expresses another faith than the one given to us by our Lord Jesus Christ. Therefore, we reject it. And many, many times in the last 50 years, there have been many souls who have said, well, we just want to go to the Latin Mass. We just want to go to the Latin Mass. The battle is about the Latin Mass. As long as there's a valid Latin Mass. And we've been saying all the time, the whole last 50 years, first error that became very visible was the error of syncretism. Then later on, the Indo community started in the 1980s. So that now if you have your Latin Mass in which you reject the Pope, but the Pope is the center of our faith. Remember that there are 4 unities in the church. When we say the church is one, we say that there are 4 things. One faith that we all must have. The same faith, same 12 articles of the creed. One faith, one set of sacraments, one sacrifice, and united under one head, who is the Holy Father. And the Holy Father is a real man that lives in Rome. Sometimes he travels, sometimes he moved. He went to Avignon for a few years, about 700 years ago. But he's a real man who keeps the faith that represents the faith, even if he himself doesn't personally have the faith. He might be in mortal sin and no longer believe in the faith. He might be in mortal sin and be wicked in all kinds of ways, including the way of loss of faith. But he is a representative of the mystical body of our Lord Jesus Christ. He is the successor of St. Peter. And the successor of St. Peter, we have a dogma of our church that there will be perpetual successors of St. Peter until the end of time. There will always be successors of St. Peter. So unfortunately, the era of syncretism came in the era of the 1970s. And it's like Father Ed McDonald says, good statement of Father Epicalo, Sedevacantism is just another Vatican II novelty. It's something that didn't exist before Vatican II. It never existed in the earlier ages of the Church. There was no such thing as Sedevacantism for 6,000 years. In the Old Testament, the head of the Church, we had high priests, kings, and prophets. And then in the New Testament, popes. And there have been many wicked high priests, many wicked prophets, many wicked kings in the Old Testament, and many wicked popes in the New Testament. But yet the Church still preserved its holiness despite the unholiness of its members, because the Church is holy. And the holiness comes from Christ, who put that holiness in the Church. So therefore, when Sedevacantism came into the picture, I'm going to say, no, sorry, but we do not recommend that you go to Sedevacantist Masses, because we must be united to the Holy Father in order to be united to Christ. And the Holy Father is the descendant and successor of St. Peter. The present Holy Father, Paul VI. After him, John Paul I, then John Paul II, then Benedict XVI, and now Pope Francis. Whoever the Bishop of Rome is, he's the head of the Holy Mother of the Church. Remember, there's nothing about bishop. So he's the head of the Holy Mother of the Church, and we must be united to him in order to get to heaven. And St. Teresa of Lefebvre said, the only way to be faithful to the Holy Father, the only way to be faithful to the Bishop of Rome, is to resist clearly, boldly, and directly his errors and heresies, his commands that go against the gospel, because he is the Holy Father, and as Holy Father, he represents the doctrine of the Church. As Holy Father, he represents our Lord Jesus Christ. He does not represent his own personal opinions. He represents Christ, and he represents Holy Mother of the Church. And he represents the successor and vicar of Christ, as was St. Peter. He's not acting as a vicar of Christ whenever he teaches heresy. He's not acting as a vicar of Christ whenever he commands sin. Therefore, we say no to him. But we don't reject him personally. We reject the sin, we reject the evil commands, we reject the errors, we reject the heresies. And then we pray for his conversion. Our Lady of Fatima indicated the Pope will both become wicked, because the Pope will not fulfill the request of heaven. In order to do that, the Pope must become wicked. And that in time, the Pope will obey the Blessed Virgin Mary, the constant Virgin Mary. In the 1970s and 1980s, if you had a Latin Mass, you could pretty much guarantee, other than the Sedevacantist problem, that the priest held the faith, that he was against Vatican II, and that he taught the doctrines of the faith. So if you saw a Latin Mass, you knew that Mass represented the faith. The negative thing that happened between the 1970s and 1988, especially 88, when the indult began to really be put into force, is that whenever you see Latin Mass, you see faith. If you see Latin Mass, you see faith. Then, 25 years after the Council, the devil reintroduced the Latin Mass with his permission. He reintroduced the Latin Mass in 1988 with the priests who would say the Latin Mass. Most of these priests were really old priests who still remembered how to say it. 70-year-old, 80-year-old priests who remembered how to say the Mass before, and they established the indult communities. By now, most of those priests are dead. Almost all of them are dead. Those original indult priests, the old priests. Those old priests were all ordained in the 1950s, some in the 60s, some in the 40s. They were put together to say the indult Mass in 1988. And Archbishop Lefebvre, and then some of them were priests in the Society of St. Pius X that left us. Some were even Sedevacantists that left them and joined the Novus Ordo. And so these priests were saying the Latin Tridentine Mass with the approval of Rome. True Mass, valid Mass, with the approval of Rome. Archbishop Lefebvre said, no. They have betrayed us, they have betrayed us, they have betrayed us. These priests, while they're celebrating the true Latin Mass, and these priests, while they are valid priests, ordained in the old days, ordained by Archbishop Lefebvre, and some of them, all the ones who joined the fraternity of St. Peter, that founded the fraternity of St. Peter, and that these priests, you should not go to their Masses because they accept Vatican II. In order to be approved, and to be able to say Mass in local churches with the permission of Rome, they had to accept 1989 Doctrine of Faith made by Cardinal Ratzinger, and they had to accept the teaching of Vatican II, and at least not have polemics against it. They could have some disagreements about this or that. They could argue and discuss a few things, secondary matters, abuses, and so on, but they must accept the Vatican II teaching. Therefore, when you go to the Mass of, like now it's in Maple Hill here in Kansas, or the ones in Topeka or Manhattan, or wherever the other Masses, other indult Masses are, Kansas City, when you go to those indult Masses, you are compromising the faith. It is not sufficient to go to a Mass because it's valid, or go to a priest because it's valid. And many, many people say, as long as I personally don't believe what the priest believes, as long as I personally don't accept the errors, it's a valid Mass and I can go. I had SSPX for the last 50 years until recently, and our system of fact from the beginning, and my old traditional priests say, no, no, no. Now, so now we come forward to the problem of Novozolo priests coming over to tradition. Many Novozolo priests have come over to tradition since 1970, and what do we do about that? So these Novozolo priests, many of them were ordained after 1968, ordained in the new ordination rite, or the new consecration rite. And there was a change in the sacrament, the use of the sacrament, and the rite of the sacrament of holy orders, and a change in the ceremony. And so what happened? Is the new rite a valid rite or not? And does the new rite confer the sacred priesthood? Are all the sacraments that are done in the Novus Ordo doubtful or invalid sacraments? What do we do about it? Well, the sacraments, St. Thomas Aquinas gives us the explanation. Question 60 and 61 of the Tertia Pars of Summa Theologica. And St. Thomas explains that the sacraments are instituted by Christ. The rites, ceremonies, are instituted by the Church. What is instituted by Christ can only be changed by Christ, and that's never changed. What is instituted by the Church can be changed by the Church. But what is instituted by Christ are the sacraments and the essential elements of the sacraments, which are the minister, the matter, and the form. These things are instituted by Christ by a divine institution. The minister of the sacraments, secondary minister, the matter of the sacraments, and the form of the sacraments. And the minister of the sacraments, like in baptism, for instance, the minister is any living human being. Someone who's not in heaven or in hell. Someone who is not in purgatory, not in eternity. A living human being. Any living human being can be the minister of baptism. Minister of marriage equals the wife and the husband. Any baptized girl who wants to marry and is able to marry a baptized man. Two baptized males, male and female, baptized female, they can be married. Secondary ministers of marriage. The other sacraments, the priest is the minister, and then of course the normal minister of confirmation is the bishop, and the only minister of priesthood is the bishop. And so the matter, in our case here, priesthood, imposition of hands. The form equals the words that convey the ideas of Christ. So in the case of the minister and the matter, there's no problem in the new rite. The new rite didn't change the minister. It's still the bishop, of course, that does the ordination ceremony. And it's still a man who's baptized who is ordained a priest. He has to be a baptized male to be able to receive the priesthood, and has to be a bishop in order to confer the priesthood. The minor orders can be conferred by some priests. The major orders only by a bishop. And so that hasn't changed in the new rite. It was still the same minister, matter, form. And remember that every single bishop that was consecrated in the new rite, each of them was consecrated by an old bishop who himself was consecrated in the old rite. So therefore there's no problem with minister. The matter with regard to the sacrament of priesthood, the imposition of hands, that's the only matter within the sacrament of priesthood. And St. Thomas Aquinas made a mistake. St. Thomas Aquinas said that the matter for the sacrament of priesthood equals the tradition of the instruments. When the bishop takes the chalice and puts it on the lap, or should be, he does it on his lap, and he has a paten and a host of wine inside the chalice. The priest puts his hands on the chalice, and the bishop says, receive the power to offer the sacrifice of the Mass. St. Thomas said, that's the matter, touching the chalice and the host, and the form equals receive the power to offer the sacrifice of the Mass. Now, this is not done in many Eastern rites. There are 24 rites in the Church, approximately 24 rites. It's not done in many of the Eastern rites. And all of their priests are valid. So therefore the theologians and saints said St. Thomas made a mistake. The matter is not the handing over the chalice. The form is not receive the power to offer the sacrifice of the Mass. Pope Pius XII cleared it up, in case there would be any doubt, to make it clear that the matter of the sacrament of priesthood equals imposition of hands. This is done in all 24 rites. The bishop puts his hands on the head of the ordinand, and that's the matter. So that's a very simple matter. The matter also, unlike the other sacraments, there's a gap. When the bishop put his hands on my head, and when he said the form, there was about a 25-minute gap between the time that he put the hands on my head, and about 25 minutes later, he said the form. There was a gap in time. Why was that? Because when he put his hands on my head, he put his hands on my head first. Then every single priest that was present in the ceremony also put his hands on my head, 40 priests or so. Then he said a prayer, and then all the priests went and sat down, and then he sang the preface, and then at the end of the preface, he said the words by which I was made a priest at 11:03 a.m. That was the time. I checked my watch. At 11:03 a.m. on the 25th of June, 1994, I became a priest. Exactly 11:03 a.m. And the other 6 that were ordained with me, at 11:03, we all became priests. Every single one of us simultaneously. The matter was imposed in our heads different times, but the form made us all priests simultaneously. And so, and that was in the Central Time Zone, if you will, but Minnesota. So at 11:03 a.m., I was ordained priest on June the 24th, when the form was prolated. And then St. Thomas talks about the form. He says the form of the sacrament, of all the 7 sacraments, the form equals the words that convey the meaning of Christ. So therefore he says, it is not the words that convey the sacrament, it's the meaning of the words that convey the sacrament. And hence, the sacrament can be, the form can be in any language. The form can be said in any language, doesn't matter what the language is, so long as the meaning of Christ is conveyed. Hence we find very different words in the forms of the 24 different rites. So they're very different words. It's so different in the case of priesthood that the saints and theologians didn't even know what the form words were. The Pope had to clear it up when it was the Latin rite, the Sacramentum Ordinis in 1948. So, but if you do the whole ceremony, you don't have to worry about it. The form's in there, you're ordained. So the form equals to say that there would be ordained a priest. Now comes to 1968, and there is a change made to the form, and the new rite is created. Father Hess describes it best when he simply says, the new rite of ordination is a schismatic, non-Catholic rite. Schismatic rite. There are other schismatic rites. The Orthodox have schismatic rites, the Old Catholics have schismatic rites, and other breakaway groups. Because Orthodox is one big term. In fact, there are many different breakaways. We put them in one big bag, but there are many different groups that broke away from the church at different times, and have different heresies. We throw them all in one bag, call them Orthodox, and then there's the Old Catholics, and then some others that broke away from the Catholic Church and formed other rites. And then these rites, most of them, with the exception of the Anglican rite, are valid. And that they're truly priests that are ordained in those rites. Why is that? Because they convey the ideas of Christ.
Christ is the principal minister of the sacrament, not the priest, or not the layman in the case of baptism. The minister is Christ. And that, so the way that St. Thomas Aquinas describes it is that the human minister, the secondary minister, he is like a mailman. All he does is take the message from the king, and he carries the message, and he drops it off to the man receiving the message. He does not write the message. He has not the power to modify the message. He can only pick up the message and bring the message over. So if he is wicked, or if he is good, either way it has no bearing on the message. This was important in dealing with the heresy of the Donatists in the first centuries, who said that wicked priests, particularly heretical priests, and wicked bishops lost their priesthood, lost their episcopacy, and had to be reordained and were no longer valid because of their sins. And St. Augustine says no. And then if a heretical priest did a baptism, then another priest should redo it. Heretical priest did an ordination, another priest should redo it, another bishop should redo it. St. Augustine says absolutely not. Because it is Christ who is the principal minister. This is relatively simple. Christ makes the sacrament valid. Christ makes the person a priest. Now, if I act as the minister of Christ, then there is a valid sacrament. Shortly before St. Thomas Aquinas wrote the Summa Theologica, some theologian, I think it was early Dominican, before St. Thomas, for the first time in the history of the Church, mentioned a fourth condition: minister, matter, form. And then he mentioned that for the first time, you don't find the first 1,000 years of the Church, the intention to do what the Church does. So we now have a new condition, the intention to do what the Church does is now a fourth condition. The intention to do what the Church does, all it means is that the minister acts as a human being, acts rationally, uses his free will, and intends to do the ceremony that the Church does. So then Pope Leo XIII describes it in Apostolicae Curae, in the letter that in which he condemns the Anglican orders and declares them to be invalid. He explains that whenever a minister seriously performs the ceremony of the Church, the sacrament is infallibly valid. So a minister who says the words of the consecration, pours the water over the head, and says, "I baptize thee," that minister does it not as a joke, like in a movie or a play or something. Does it seriously, as a ceremony, what Catholics do. Then Christ operates through him, and the sacrament is infallibly valid, ex opere operato, which means the work itself makes the sacrament happen. By the work of the work, not the work of the one who's working, the worker, but by the work of the work itself, the sacrament is immediately and automatically valid. Now in the 1970s, some people, some priests came up and said, looking at the new sacraments, 1968, when the form was changed in the new rite. Some priests came, it's like Father Giacata being one of them, and some of the early priests of the nine who became the ninth priests of the Sede Giacatas in 1983. Some of those priests said, there has been a change in the form, change in the words, and this therefore makes the sacrament invalid. Even though they recognize the teaching of St. Thomas Aquinas and of Catholic theology, they recognize that. But the Catholic theology teaches that when the words of the form are changed, if the same meaning is kept, it's a sacrilege, it's a sin, but it's valid. And St. Thomas says, even if you mess up the words, but the same meaning can be understood, it's valid. So when like the example I gave you last time, giving a talk on this subject, that St. Thomas gives a precise example of in nomine Patrias Filias. If a priest baptizes somebody in nomine Patrias Filias, Spiritus Sancti, which means the name of the fatherland's daughters, but not saying father and son, but father and daughters, that this is going to be a valid sacrament. Because by accommodation, it is easily understood that the priest tends to say in the name of the Father and the Son. But he mispronounces and he says fatherland's daughters. Therefore, it's a valid sacrament, even though he screwed up the pronunciation. And so that St. Thomas points out that it is clear that the sacrament is still valid. The same meaning is still kept, even though the priest screwed up the pronunciation. And so, if he screws it up too much, to where the meaning cannot be there at all, or cannot be perceived at all, then it would be invalid. But if the meaning can still be perceived, it's valid. Applying to the 1968 consecrations, pretty simple. The change of form and the change of rite means, number one, it's not the Roman rite. It's not the same rite that Pius XII defined concerning. Pius XII gave a definition concerning the matter, well, for all the rites, because it's the same for all rites, position hands, and the form for the Roman rite, which applies only to the Roman rite. And that form is of the Roman rite, and he described it in essential words for the consecration of bishops and the ordination of priests. And that form is not the same as the form in the new rite. However, the ideas contained in the form, the essential concept of the form being primarily episcopal authority and apostle episcopal authority, are clearly contained in the new rite. Therefore, without doubt, the form is valid. And here you know that Father Pierre Marie in 2005 and Father Peter Scott, both of them in their articles concerning the new consecration rite in 2007, I think, point out very clearly that the new consecration rite is definitely valid and the new ordination rite is definitely valid. So your matter and your form and your minister are fine. There is a fourth consideration, which is the intention. And there the intention, which is brought up in the time of St. Thomas Aquinas, the intention to do what the church does. St. Thomas gives the example. He says, as long as the minister intends to do the ceremony. So remember, since Christ is the minister of the sacrament and not the priest and not the layman in the case of baptism, all you do is pick it up and put it down. To be a minister of the sacrament means that you are the instrument of Christ. You are the secondary minister. That I must intend to do the ceremony that Catholics do. This is very important because there are many cases in which heretic priests and heretic people have administered sacraments. For instance, an atheist doing a baptism, or an atheist doing ordination to the priesthood, or a Satanist doing a baptism, ordination to the priesthood, or any kind of Protestant. The example given in the old days is the Methodists. In 1884, the AAS, Act of Intelligent Satans, was requested by the bishop of some bishop in Belgium, I think it was, bishop in Europe, to permission to conditionally rebaptize Methodists. The reason being is that Methodists do not believe that baptism takes away original sin. And Methodists do not believe that it leaves an indelible mark on the soul. They think it's just a nice little ceremony. And they do not believe in baptism. And they do not believe in original sin. And they don't believe in the removal of original sin. Therefore, their sacraments must be invalid, said this bishop. Made a request to Rome, can we conditionally rebaptize those Methodists who become Catholics? And Rome wrote back and said, you cannot. You cannot rebaptize them. They are already baptized. Because the Methodist minister who does not believe in baptism, he takes water, he pours it over the head, or he dunks the person in water, or sprinkles water upon them, and he says, I baptize thee in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Christ is the minister, and the Baptist is only a secondary minister. He intends to do the ceremony, but he does not believe in it. And St. Thomas gives a specific example of a priest who doesn't believe in the priesthood, or a minister that does not believe in the real presence, for instance, doesn't believe in the Mass, and he says Mass, he administers the sacrament. Is the sacrament valid? St. Thomas points out, personal sins do not invalidate the sacrament. And just like the sin against charity is a personal sin, being the state of mortal sin, and it does not invalidate any sacrament, so likewise the sin against faith is also a personal sin and cannot invalidate a sacrament. So if a priest or a minister does not believe in the sacrament of priesthood, does not believe in the sacrament of baptism or confirmation or the Holy Eucharist, but that minister administers the sacrament, doing the ceremony of the church, says the words that convey the meaning, the sacrament is necessarily, infallibly, certainly valid. So then, where do you have a problem with regard to intentions? All that's required is that the minister must intend to do what the church does. That means he intends to do the ceremony. Like we mentioned last time a few months ago, the prime example for us is Cardinal Lionheart. Cardinal Lionheart was supposed to have said on his deathbed that he, who ordained Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre to the priesthood, and also consecrated him to the episcopacy, that Cardinal Lionheart withheld his intention to ordain every priest that he ordained. That he did not want them to be ordained. 1929, 90 years ago, he ordained Marcel Lefebvre a priest. And he said, I withheld my intention. Well, what if he did withhold his intention? First of all, it's hard to prove that because he's supposed to have said that on his deathbed, and we can't verify the witnesses. However, he's supposed to have said that. Supposing that he did. Doesn't matter. Supposing that he really did intend to withhold his intention. It still doesn't matter. Why? Because in 1929, what did Cardinal Lionheart, at the time Bishop Lionheart, do? He put on vestments that morning that a bishop wears. He walked into the sanctuary and stood where the bishop stands. He read the prayers the bishop is supposed to read. And he put the hands on the head of Marcel Lefebvre like a bishop is supposed to do. And no one forced him to do it. He was not on drugs. He was alive. He was breathing. He intended to do it. He intended to put his hands on the head. He intended to read the prayers in the Pontificale Romanum. He intended to put on the vestments. He intended to put on the mitre. He intended to put the hands on the head. He intended to do everything that the church does. And he did everything that the church does. Now, he may not believe in it. He may hate it. Maybe he really was a Masonic infiltrator. He was one of the liberal bishops of the council. He was one of the wicked liberal bishops of the council and was accused of being a Mason. Maybe he did. But even if he was, it has no bearing on the validity of the sacrament because he did what the church does. Therefore, Father Marcel Lefebvre, and later Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre, was validly ordained priest and validly consecrated bishop. His intention to believe in the sacrament is not required. And here is where the mistake comes in. This is where the mistake is. First of all, regarding Lefebvre's personal teaching, he recognized and did teach that the form of the sacrament, the matter of the sacrament, is valid. And this is one of the complaints of Father Cicada. Father Cicada and the 9 cited Mountain priests who were upset with Bishop Lefebvre for accepting the validity of the new sacraments of priesthood, that sacrament itself is valid as far as matter and form and minister goes. And that, therefore, what's the problem? Why the conditional reordinations that Archbishop Lefebvre did do? I observed multiples of them myself. Why the conditional reordinations? And why? Two reasons. One is a misunderstanding of the meaning of intention. Two is that sometimes they actually change the rite. And another is because of the personal subjective doubt of faithful and sometimes priests, which is the weakest of the reasons. With regard to the first thing, which actually should be the changing of the rite, there are times that it happened that they didn't even follow the new rite. In which case, still doesn't mean it's invalid, but it would mean you need to check. What words did they say? Did the words convey the meaning of Christ? If they did, valid. If they didn't, invalid. And if we're not sure, doubt. But you'll be able to look at the actual text itself, at the actual words themselves, and see whether or not they meet the criteria of Catholic dogmatic and moral theology. Not very difficult to do, at least to check. And this rarely happens, but it has happened a few times in which the minister has not exercised the principal concern, the actual rite. Principal concern has to do with intentions. So the principal doubt has to do with intentions. And here it's because of a misunderstanding of what intention is. There's a document by Carmel written on the defending the Lynar consecrations that quotes, the validity of Archbishop Leo's consecration as a bishop and his ordination as a priest, that the intention to do what the church does is all that's required, and that Lynar fulfilled those conditions, and therefore I'm a valid priest, and the other priests in society are all valid priests, and every priest ordained by way of Archbishop Pfeiffer is a valid priest, and there's no doubt concerning our ordination. And that what Leo XIII says, as does the Rome, that no one can express a doubt concerning an ordination or concerning the sacrament unless he has positive proof that there is a reason for doubt. That's the 1934 Apostolic AAS, Apostolic Status, saying that you cannot, someone questioned the doubtful validity of some priest, and the AAS responded and said, you have no right to be doubting this priest's ordination or any priest's ordination or any of the sacraments unless you have a positive proof that there's a real reason to doubt. Like maybe the bishop didn't show up for the ceremony, maybe he didn't put the hands on the head, maybe he refused to read the prayers of the consecration, maybe the priest left during that part of the ceremony and didn't come back until afterwards. There needs to be some kind of evidence that there is a reason for doubt, that there is a reason, then you have to prove it. And if you can't prove it, there's no one can have any kind of, no has the right to have any doubt concerning the ordination validity. But in any case, hence the case of Cardinal Lynar, Archbishop Lefebvre, the priest in society, there is no confusion, no reason to doubt our ordinations. Even if Cardinal Lynar really did say, I withheld my intention. Same is true with even the cardinal that took consecrations and took ordinations. Archbishop Took was a real bishop. He ordained. He ordained multiple priests. He put the hands on the head. He said the ceremony, and he intended to ordain them in order to spread the faith, in order to keep the priesthood going in the problem of Vatican II. Maybe he made a mistake in many cases. Maybe he did. But there's no question as to the validity of what he did. And so it is, as long as the minister imposes the hands, says words that convey the meaning of Christ, it fulfills the conditions of our Lord Jesus Christ, therefore the sacraments are valid. That's why when someone's a Protestant, they come to us, it turns out we want to get married. And my wife left me and will not let me marry in the church. I want to use the Pauline privilege, which is in the Epistle of St. Paul. I was never a Catholic, and she was never a Catholic, and I am leaving that girl, and I want to marry in the Catholic Church. And I am allowed to do that in favorem fidei. It's called the Pauline privilege. Well, let me check. Were you baptized in the Protestant Church? Yes, I was. Was your wife baptized? Yes, she was. But we never believed. Did they baptize you in the name of the Father and the Holy Ghost? Yes, they did. You cannot use the Pauline privilege. You cannot be married in favor of the faith because you have a sacramental marriage. And therefore, you cannot leave that wife to marry a Catholic. If you were never baptized and she was never baptized, you could invoke the Pauline privilege, which is in the Epistle of St. Paul, and you could dump her and go marry a Catholic, provided she dumps you. So if she refuses to live with you in peace, you're allowed to actually marry someone else because it's a natural bond which is broken by the supernatural bond. However, you're validly baptized. he is validly baptized. You cannot invoke the Pauline privilege. So the church recognizes the validity of sacraments, even offered by non-Catholics, by atheists, by Satanists, by men outside the church, provided those men exercise the right matter in the right form, and the intention to do what the church does, like I described for the Lionheart. The mistake is they do not need to have the intention to believe what the church believes. For instance, they don't have to believe in priesthood. They don't have to believe in the Blessed Sacrament. They don't have to believe that baptism takes away sins. They don't have to believe those things. This is a clear teaching of Catholic sacramental theology. All that's required is to do the ceremony seriously. If they don't believe those things, they sin. And the reason why they don't have to believe it is described by St. Augustine. St. Augustine says, it is not the belief of the priest that makes you baptized. It's not the power of the priest that makes you baptized. It's Christ's belief and Christ's power that makes you baptized. Which means if a holy priest baptized you, you're not more holy. If a sinful priest baptized you, you're not sinful. If a very holy priest baptized you and a wicked priest baptized your brother, there's no difference in the two baptisms, because Christ is the one that baptizes. Christ is the one that ordains. Now, applying to the present situation we're dealing with Father Poisson and the ordination. What was the policy of the St. Pius X, Archbishop of Lefebvre, before he died? Many times we did conditional ordinations. What's the reason? Questioning intention was the principal reason. We know the matter is valid, we know the form is valid. Archbishop Lefebvre recognized the form is valid, the matter is valid. Even in the consecration sermon, Archbishop Lefebvre mentioned in 88, he says, we doubt the ordinations of many of these priests. We must make sure there's valid priests. But we can doubt the ordination because of the intentions. So the issue is regard to intentions. That the ceremony valid, matter valid, form valid, ceremony valid. I mean, the ceremony is not relevant except doing what Christ commanded. And then the result is a valid sacrament. A valid sacrament means that it happened. Does not mean it's holy. Does not mean it's pleasing to God. It's a mortal sin for you to have your children baptized by a Protestant minister, though they will be validly baptized. It's a mortal sin for you to go to the Orthodox Mass, which will be a valid Mass, because it's not a union with the Church. It's a mortal sin to attend a schismatic sect, any other schismatic sect, in which they have valid sacraments. So it would be a mortal sin because validity simply means the minimum thing happened, and validity is not sufficient. Validity is not enough to be in the state of grace. Validity is not enough to be a faithful Catholic. And that this we emphasize over and over and again in the last 50 years. I want to go to the Latin Mass because it's valid. I got the valid Mass. No. It is not enough that they have a valid Mass. Are they in union with Holy Mother of the Church? Are they teaching what Holy Mother of the Church teaches? Are they leading your souls to God by teaching the true faith? If they are not doing that, they're leading your souls astray, and you are endangering your faith. Therefore, do not go to the valid Masses at St. Mary's. Don't go to the valid Masses at Immaculate Conception. Don't go to the valid Masses at Maple Hill. Don't go to the valid Masses wherever the other St. Vicandus, whoever are celebrating Masses. Don't do that, because it's not sufficient for a Catholic. Getting back to the conditional ordination policy. The reason for conditional ordination, again, would be the problem of intentions. That may be an increase in them intentions. So what did we do when we did our investigations? Father Peter Scott did investigations, Archbishop Lefebvre did investigations, and we did investigations under the direction of our superiors, priests, who have come over to the society. What do we check? Did the priest, did the bishop, who did the ceremony, did he do the ceremony? Usually that's not an issue. They almost always do the ceremony, so that's not a major issue. Number two, what were their theology? Were you ordained a priest by Cardinal Mahoney, who did not believe in the priesthood and who wanted priestless masses and women priests before the year 2000? Cardinal Mahoney said he wanted women priests before the year 2000, and he wanted priestless masses before the year 2000. That was his great goal for the millennium. The Holy Cardinal of Los Angeles, Mahoney. Now, did Mahoney ordain him to the priesthood? He doesn't believe in priesthood. Or did Templin ordain him to the priesthood? Templin is one of the most conservative bishops in the Nova Soto Church, who firmly believes in priesthood, believes in the sacrifice, believes in all the teachings of the church. So we would check, was it a Templin type bishop that consecrated you, ordained you, or was it a Mahoney type bishop that ordained you? If it was a Mahoney type bishop, then we can say we have reasons to doubt whether or not he believed in priesthood. And therefore, to be on the safe side, we'll go ahead and conditionally ordain you. Now, there is, and that's why Father Pierre Marie, he says that Archbishop Lefebvre never absolutely questioned the ordinations. Of course, he said that the sacrament's valid, the matter is valid, the form is valid. But the question with regard to intentions, especially the example that he gave in 1982 in Brussels, where a bishop said, may you be an apostle like Gandhi, an apostle like Muhammad. How can that bishop intend to do what the church does? And if you change the ceremony, well then it might be invalid because you changed the ceremony. There's a mistake there, and the mistake is that the belief that the bishop or the priest must intend to ordain. That's not what the church teaches. That's not what St. Thomas teaches. What St. Thomas and the church teaches is that he does not need to have the intention to ordain, or the intention to baptize, or the intention to confirm. He has to have simply the intention of doing the ceremony that Catholics do. That's all. He does it of his own free will, and then the sacrament's valid. So we're coming to the ordination of conditional ordination of priests. Some priests were not conditionally ordained. This is the famous case of Father Stark back in the early 80s. And some priests refused to be conditionally ordained. And some priests worked alongside the society who never be conditionally ordained, like Father Bruder and Father Hess and so on, and many others. And so that these priests worked alongside the society. Archbishop Lefebvre, the Society by extent, promoted these priests so long as they had the right Catholic theology, so long as they were not teaching error and heresy as far as we know, so long as they weren't leading souls away from the true faith, and we're not teaching error or not teaching heresy against the faith, and they didn't fall into the trap of scientific montism, or the trap of the Indo. Then we say, no, okay, we go ahead and support those priests. Many of them were not ever conditionally ordained only in the New Rite, or like in the case of Father Perez and Father Poisson, ordained in the Old Rite by a bishop who was consecrated in the New Rite. So, applying to Father Poisson, in his case, he was ordained in the Old Rite in 1996. Same rite Father Hugo and I were ordained in, all society priests and all that, mass priests for over the last 1,500 years. Same rite, no problem, valid. No problem of any kind. But he was ordained by a bishop, Templin, who himself was also ordained a priest in the Old Rite in 1954. And then was consecrated a bishop in 1976. But in the New Rite, by an old Bishop McQuaid, who was an old bishop, consecrated in the 1940s or so, conservative bishop of the council. And Bishop McQuaid clearly had the intention to do what the church does. He believed in the priesthood, believed in the episcopacy, was a conservative bishop. There's no reason to doubt his intentions, even by the standards of this misunderstanding of intentions. And Bishop Templin, of course, I personally met Bishop Templin. I talked with him for a good length of time. He was one of the 30 bishops or so that I personally met. And of all the 30-something bishops I met, he was certainly the most Catholic sounding, the most clear in his teaching than any of the others. And he was the one who was the bishop of Scranton, Pennsylvania, who led the fraternity of St. Peter in 1989. Who approved of conservative orders being created, and who was very happy to ordain in the Old Rite and also celebrate Mass in the Old Rite. He was an MC for Pius XII in the papal ceremonies. He was the head MC of the papal ceremonies, headmaster of ceremonies for all papal masses in the 1950s, the early 1950s in Rome. And he had a great love of the liturgy, a great love of the ceremonies to talk to, and a great love of the Latin Mass, great love of Catholic tradition. He just thought that he had to be obedient to Martyrs Rome. And it was for reasons of obedience that he went down the path that he did as a novice or a bishop. So, therefore, there's no reason to doubt his intentions in the ordination. Now, for Father Guasson, however, I recommended that he be conditionally reordained. And I recommended that each priest be conditionally reordained, even though we recognize the validity of the new ordination rite. But the reason is because of the crisis in the church. That there are faithful and there are priests also who, even though we can prove to them by sacramental theology, new ordination rites valid, and also God would not allow there to be thousands and thousands of invalid bishops and invalid priests running around, especially the Bishop of Rome, and that God is going to preserve His church. He's not going to allow it to go defunct by not having valid priests and valid bishops. But what must be done is that we recommend, however, the conditional reordination in order to placate the consciences of some of the worries, of some of the faithful, some of the priests. This is the reason for the policy, the marches of the Fed. Number one, not universally doing conditional reordinations. Father Starks did not have any doubts concerning his ordination. Archbishop Lefebvre had no doubts concerning his ordination, and he did not wish to be conditionally ordained, so therefore he said, fine. You, Father Starks, do not need to be conditionally ordained. Other priests like that. So it did the same thing. So those priests went ahead and functioned as helpers in the Society of St. Pius X. Father Poisson, when he came to help us, being a priest from 30 of St. Peter, ordained in the old rite, consecrated in the old by a bishop who was consecrated in the new rite, specific bishop being Bishop Timlin, even by the rules and regulations of the society a few years ago. There's no reason to doubt his ordination, therefore we don't need to conditionally ordain him. However, given the circumstances of our crisis in the church, confusion of the faithful and so on, it's wiser to have him conditionally ordained to help remove doubt. Hence I asked, of course, Bishop Williamson to do the ordination, Bishop Four, our bishops, Bishop Dejas, and so on, and of course they refused. And then Bishop Ambrose was willing to do the ordination. Bishop Ambrose, okay, is a valid bishop, and this is a conditional ordination, backup generator. He's already a priest anyway, so I allowed him to do the conditional ordination. Father Poisson, of course, had to approve of it because I don't have direct right to command him, but I said it would be good for you to do that. And the purpose of the conditional ordination was to help remove doubt, which it did for 6 months for some people. But then the doubt came back through the questions brought up in the late December of last year, being brought forth. Yes. Right. So what you're saying is, if he's already a priest, to repeat an unrepeatable sacrament is strictly speaking, considered a sacrilege, and we're not supposed to do it. And we recognize that. However, there are circumstances in which it can be done, and that's why Archbishop Lefebvre did it secretly. We have the policy to do it secretly because, on the one side, we recognize we're not supposed to do it normally. However, because for the good of the faithful and for the good of the priest himself, in order to pastorally make the situation better, we did the conditional ordination. So when I served as conditional ordinations, I was told, and Father Hugo, we served them together in the seminary, we were told, don't tell any seminarian about it because we don't want them to doubt the ordinations and so on. You're forbidden to say anything about it. I set up the conditional ordinations at midnight. I would set up a pontifical chair at midnight, and we had the ordination up in the Lady Chapel, and we had it during the same masses that were going on, and we were all scheduled, each of us that were serving the consecration, myself, Father Hugo usually, and then an MC, 3 of us, we would be scheduled for masses on the side altars, and we were forbidden to speak to the other seminarians about it, or to speak to anyone other than the priest being conditionally ordained about it. We were held as a secret because we're not supposed to do it normally. However, we did it in a secret way without any person being allowed to be present other than the necessary ministers, out of respect for the sacrament not being repeated. However, we repeated it because of the doubt of the faithful, and that in order to placate their doubt. in order that they might be able to continue to go to Mass. Because some people will refuse to go to Mass. Right? And so in order to help them, we said, all right, we're going to go ahead and do the conditional ordination. But yes. Okay, it was secret within quotes, right? Afterwards, the priest would then tell people, you say, nobody knew about it, the priest would tell people, I was conditionally ordained. Which is what we do, right? So there are many such priests, right? Father Marks is one of them. He died now. Father Ringrose is another one. So there are many such priests. I was involved in the serving of about, I'm guessing around, I don't really know, but around 20 different conditional ordinations. I was involved in many of them because I was a sacristan, and it was my job to set up and get everything ready. I was involved in many of them. I don't even remember the names of all of them. I remember some of them. Some of them are dead now, but I don't remember even all their names. But I was involved in the ordination, and so that there is an argument. There's two opinions. One opinion of Father Hess and Father Perez, which is what you just indicated. I know I'm valid. You're not supposed to repeat the sacrament. Therefore, it's wrong to repeat it, and the people don't like it. It's too bad. They can go somewhere else. And then there is in fact, Father Perez says he wants people to know that he wasn't conditionally ordained, because that reduces his headaches. He has much fewer headaches, because hey, you don't want to come to my Mass? Good. Go somewhere else, right? So it's not very pastoral, but it does reduce headaches. Now, the problem is that anybody say no, because there's a crisis in the church. This is our argument. If there wasn't Vatican II, and if there wasn't a crisis in the church, it would, strictly speaking, be gravely wrong to do a conditional ordination when we know they're valid. But because there's Vatican II, and because there's a crisis in the church, and because the sheep are so weak, and they don't understand, even though they should listen to us, that they're not going to. I can give you the quotes of Apostolic Security. You don't care. I give you the quotes of Archbishop Lefebvre. They don't care about that either. I give the quotes of St. Thomas Aquinas. He was a fat guy that had a weight problem. They don't care about that. So they're not going to listen. Right? Even though we can tell you this is what St. Thomas says, this is what Pope Leo XIII says, this is what the practice of the church is. And the Apostolic Security is the best document. Because Apostolic Security, Pope Leo XIII points out, we never conditionally ordain any Orthodox. We never ordain any of the others, and yet Pope Julius I and Pope Julius II did ordain any Anglican who came from the Anglican Church to the Catholics. We never did it with the Orthodox. We never did it with the Old Catholics. We never did it with the Nestorians and all the other heretics. But the Anglicans only. Anglicans only. Why? Because of invalid form. Invalid form for over 100 years. And Archbishop Lefebvre said in his talk in 1983, he said, these 5 priests of the Northeast District, before they became 9, these 5 priests are so quick to say that the new ordination rites are invalid. It took 500 years for the Pope to say the Anglicans were invalid. 500 years. They were so slow and so careful and so afraid to condemn their own enemies. It took 500 years, or really 400, he said 500, 500 years for the Pope to say the Anglican orders are invalid, and he is the arch-layman of Canterbury, and they're the arch-layman of the various churches to which they belong. They are not valid priests. So it is true that one of the arguments against conditional reordination is, why do it when we say it's valid? The reason is pastoral. And here's where my problem comes in. Because for pastoral reasons, that we were talking about last time, or a little while ago, for pastoral reasons, I had Father Poisson conditionally ordained, Archbishop Ambrose, and it backfired. Didn't work. Because people don't believe in Archbishop Ambrose. So therefore, the conditional reordination ended up being useless. Totally useless. The fact that, that Archbishop Ambrose is a bishop, okay, but it wouldn't matter anyway, because Father Poisson was already a valid priest anyway. You can't be validity twice. The reason for the conditional ceremony, the reason for it being done in secret, is in order to placate the conscience of people who can say later on he was conditionally ordained. It was a mistake. When I could have conditionally ordained my father, Archbishop Ambrose, the purpose was to allay consciences, and the purpose was to put him back in the battlefield without any questions, and it didn't work. Backfired because of people bringing doubts about Archbishop Ambrose. I still believe Archbishop Ambrose is bishop based on what I have studied, but I cannot seal that it is the case, and therefore it didn't help. Yeah. Right, it's true that Archbishop Pfeiffer himself, at least in the early 80s, later on we began being more universal. But in the early 80s, Archbishop Pfeiffer did not conditionally ordain everybody. He conditionally ordained many. All the way till he died. He conditionally ordained, or had conditionally ordained, because once he had the 4 new bishops, he was able to get them to do it, right? But he did not universally do it because of the doubt, because there wasn't reason for doubt. His reason for doubt had to do with intentions. Do these priests believe in the priesthood? Do these priests believe in ordination? Do these bishops believe? I myself have met about 35 bishops, and the 35 I met, I would say there was one that I met who doesn't believe in the priesthood, doesn't believe in anything Catholic. The other 30-something all did, but they were really not very bright, but they all did. What I saw, I talked to about 30-something bishops. In my personal experience, talking to the liberal bishops, you know, they're just going to do whatever the boss tells them to do. They're just going to be obedient, and they're just going to follow the rules. Yes, Father? Right. In most cases, like I say, a bishop ordained in the old new rite, or old rite, consecrated in the old rite, when he ordains, he intends to consecrate, he intends to ordain. My point is the point of St. Augustine and the point of St. Thomas Aquinas. It doesn't matter if he intends to ordain. If he does, that's good for his soul. If he doesn't, that's bad for his soul. But neither way does it affect the ordination. St. Augustine is very strict about that because he says it's Christ that baptizes, and therefore the intention of the priest doesn't matter. As long as he does the ceremony awake with a free will, bang, it's done. And if he has a holy intention, it helps his personal soul. If he has an unholy intention, it damns his personal soul. But it has no effect on the sacrament itself. So that will be something that will be a part of judgment for that priest or that bishop, but nothing to do with the recipient. Yeah.
So you said our bishop was that ordained, reordained the ones that do not believe in the priesthood. Whereas earlier you said it doesn't matter whether they believe or not. That wasn't what made the intention.
That's correct. So you got 2 things. There's a mistake. The mistake is the belief that the priest must intend to ordain, or the bishop. That's a mistake. That's contrary to sacramental theology. Archbishop Pfeiffer did say that mistake a couple times. He did. He also, and so he said that we have doubts concerning their intentions to do what the church wills to be done. Well, the church wills to be done the ceremony that makes Christ present, in the case of the Mass, that makes you a member of Christ, you know, in the case of baptism, that makes you an authority and minister of Christ, in the case of priesthood. And all you have to do is attend that ceremony. That's all. So there is a mistake there. That's contrary to the teaching of dogmatic and moral theology. It's a mistake. But the basic teaching is correct, which is that there must be a valid matter, valid minister, valid form, and the intention is the minimum intention to do what the church does, which basically means you did it when you were awake with a free will. Basically what it means. You didn't do it on drugs when you were asleep. Yeah.
So an example of
It would still be valid. Right. That's correct. Correct. So you right. So the example of Cardinal Mahoney, is correct, that Cardinal Mahoney doesn't believe in priesthood, but if Cardinal Mahoney put the hands on the head, which he did, and he said the words, it's valid, according to traditional Catholic sacramental theology. And that's one reason why Father Cicada does not argue on the basis of intention. He knows the theology of intention. Father Cicada argues on the basis of the form being invalid, which is a much wiser way to argue. Father Cicada says the form is changed and therefore it's invalid. That's the correct kind of argument. He's wrong. His conclusion is wrong. However, at least he's arguing on the correct plane. He's arguing on the plane of, here's the ceremony, here's the words, they changed the words, these words are different than the old words, therefore it's invalid. Even though Father Cicada admits that you can change the words and still be valid, he nonetheless says that it's invalid. Right? And it's interesting with the catacombs there, they're saying that Father Cicada said a good thing when he talked about the new form being invalid. And they also speak about the 2007 article of Father Peter Scott and the article of Father Pierre Marie. And they claim that these articles were written after Pope Benedict became Pope, right? And that the reason they made these articles is because the society was preparing to make a deal with Rome. And therefore, we needed to say that they're valid popes. Valid bishops. But in fact, that's not the issue. The issue is the Pope is the Bishop of Rome. The Bishop of Rome is the successor of St. Peter. In order to be the successor of St. Peter, he must be the Bishop of Rome. For the first time, now Pope Benedict is the first Pope to be a Bishop of Rome who was consecrated in the new rite. Is he the Bishop of Rome? So if he is the Bishop of Rome, then he is the successor of St. Peter. If he is not the Bishop of Rome, he's not the successor of St. Peter. There is a kind of a foolish argument that was made recently by someone saying that a layman can be elected Pope, which is true. You can be elected Pope. I'm not sure if it's a good idea, but you can be elected Pope, right? But the fact is, any layman who's baptized can be elected Pope. That's true. You are the Pope-elect the second you get elected. You're not the Pope. We have to bring you to some bishop. He's then got to ordain you a priest on Monday. Then he consecrates you a bishop on Tuesday. This happened multiple times. St. Peter Celestine and St. Gregory the Great. St. Gregory the Great was just a priest. He was elected Pope. So they had to consecrate him a bishop. When he became bishop, he became Pope. St. Peter Celestine was just a layman. He was a monk. They elected him Pope. So they brought him out of his cave. They said, kneel down. He knelt down and they ordained him a priest. He didn't even know how to say Mass. Then they consecrated a bishop. He still didn't know how to say Mass. So he had to learn how to say Mass after he was ordained a priest. He went, Dominus, Dominic Friscum. No, that's not it. It's Dominic, Dominus, Vobiscum. And he had to learn that after, right? But in order for him to become Pope, he needed to be consecrated a bishop. And the moment he was consecrated bishop, he became the successor of St. Peter, who didn't know how to celebrate Mass. He did it, but he was very slow. I think he eventually learned how to say Mass. But then he resigned after a short period of time. But there were other popes who were elected also who were laymen. You cannot be a pope unless you are the successor of Peter, sitting as a bishop in the chair of Rome. Now, if the new ordination rite is doubtfully valid, which would be the same thing as invalid, which you can't know, right? Same thing as invalid. If it is doubtfully valid, essentially the same practical conclusion, that means that we cannot know that Benedict is not the Pope, and Francis is not the Pope. Because remember, the Pope is just a familiar term. Papa simply means father. It's a loving term that we give to the Bishop of Rome. Pope doesn't really mean anything. It's just a nice term. We call him Papa. Right? So Papa is what we call the Bishop of Rome, because he is our Papa. He's the Papa of all of us. We call him the Holy Father, the Father of all of us. And so we call him Holy Father. It's just affection, a term of affection, but the actual Pope is the Bishop of the city of Rome. And so when you look at the problem of the new consecration rite, well, if it is invalid, like Father Cicada says it is, or doubtfully valid, that means that Benedict and Francis are not popes. It also means that our local bishop of Kansas City, what's his name? What's the first name again? What is it? Alvin. Alvin's his first name, right? Joseph Alvin. Okay, Joseph. And Dalman. Okay, Joseph Dalman. Now, when we say the Mass, we say the name of the local bishop, Joseph Kurtz in Louisville, Kentucky, right? And then when we say the name of the local bishop, because we don't know the name, I often say Angelo, the messenger, the dude that's there, because we're saying Mass in so many dioceses. But Joseph, we say the Mass in union with Joseph, the bishop, our local bishop here, and in union with Francis, who is the Bishop of Rome. Now, I cannot be under Joseph. When I said Mass for you, I say it under Joseph. And when I say Mass for you, I say it under Francis. Always the first name, because the first name signifies the individual. Remember, you can't go to confession to a priest. You can't be in obedience to a priest. You can be in obedience to Father Bob. You can be in obedience to Bishop Bob or Pope Bob. Probably the next Pope, Pope Bob, right? Be the next Pope, you know? So, but the fact is, we recognize that our church is a physical church. It's an incarnational church. So there's a big problem with doubting the new ordination rite and the problem of, say, the cantism. Because if Bishop Joseph is not the bishop of the diocese, I cannot say Mass in union with him in obedience to him. And if Bishop Francis is not the Bishop of Rome, then I cannot be in obedience to him either. I can't even disobey him. I'm up the creek because I like disobeying people. So I can't disobey him or obey him. I can only disobey or obey him if he is the true Bishop of Rome and the true successor of St. Peter. So one of the necessary consequences of this problem of universal doubt is that it means that if you doubt every ordination, number one, you've got no reason to doubt it, so you're doubting in an immoral way. You have to have a reason for doubt. Number two, you are doubting the hierarchy of the church. You're doubting Pope and you're doubting Bishop. That's very different from disobeying Pope and disobeying Bishop. See, it's a very big deal whether I doubt or whether I disobey a real bishop or obey a real bishop. So, practical consequences, but theoretical consequences are very grave. I can't say that someone's just not a Pope, not a bishop. Father Hess points that out quite well in his talk about the subject. You can't just doubt. I doubt. Today is a Sunday. Today is a doubtful day. I'm going to doubt today. It's a great day to doubt. I feel like doubting. And I doubt your intentions. Whenever the salesman comes to the door, the girl always doubts his intentions. You know, there are actual salesmen who want to sell you something good. And who do want to help you. And are actually being honest. I just haven't met any of them. But the fact is, they do exist, right? And so that you have, so that you can say, I doubt your intentions. That's arbitrary. We have no right to doubt intentions. Pope Leo XIII said, Apostolic Curia, the church does not have the power or right to doubt, to judge intentions, and the Catholic Church never judges intentions. That's the Pope speaking in the very document in which he condemns the Anglican orders. Take to paragraph 33 of that document. He says the church does not ever doubt a judge intentions. If you did the ceremony, it's done. You were awake. You did it. Now the thing to remember is, whether valid or invalid, that takes 2 seconds. You can be ordained a priest when you're a baby. It's been done. It's called ordination in cunis, which means in the crib. There are bishops that have ordained boys in the crib. Bang! They're bishops. They're priests. However, I wouldn't recommend going to their Mass. I we recommend going to confession to them. Because it takes more than just validity of ordination. Anyone can be ordained. Anyone can be ordained. Any man can be ordained. You must profess the Catholic faith, have some foundation. That's why the seminary is so important. Receive some Catholic theology, receive some Catholic philosophy, to understand the principles of the supernatural life, and then go out on the battlefield. To be ordained, if you do it the new way, with Bishop Williamson, with a 10-minute ceremony, you can do it in 10 minutes. If you do it the slow way, you can do it in 45 minutes. It takes 45 minutes to do the whole ceremony. That's including Mass. So I could ordain, I can't, I'm not a bishop, but a bishop could ordain any male in 45 minutes. Oh, bang, done, you're ordained. And you're ordained forever. But that doesn't mean you know anything about priesthood. That doesn't mean you have the faith. It doesn't even mean you're Catholic. It just means you're ordained. So we should not worry about ordination. What we worry about is it the faith? So when you have a Latin Mass in Maple Hill, it's a valid Latin Mass. But it is wrong to go there. Absolutely wrong. Because when you go to that Mass in Maple Hill, Kansas, you're approving of, by your external action, you are approving of the Novus Ordo Missae, you're approving of Vatican II, you're approving of the errors of Vatican II publicly by your actions, and therefore you shouldn't go. That's the situation there. That's the situation there. And so, getting back to the Father Poisson situation, it's a pastoral decision. I understand that. It's a pastoral decision. And there are two opinions. One opinion is go ahead and do it because it will help souls. The other one is don't do it. Just explain it. And if they can't understand, it's too bad. Archbishop Lefebvre usually did the more pastoral thing. He was more pastoral. He was a missionary. And he did conditional confirmations. He did conditional ordinations. In order to just take away the doubts that may be in some people's consciences. And so, even though he didn't do it universally, and of course we cannot forbid people from going to the Mass of someone who wasn't officially ordained. But Archbishop Lefebvre never did that, never once in his life did he ever say, don't go to that priest Mass, he may not be validly ordained. He did say, don't go to those Masses because they profess a false faith. Don't go to those Masses because they've compromised in faith. He did say that. He did also, don't go to the Masses because you endanger your faith by going to their Masses. Those three things he said. But he didn't say, don't go to that Mass because I don't think he's a valid priest. That he didn't do. And, and there was a wisdom in that because Archbishop Lefebvre was a missionary who was working in the salvation of souls and on the principles of the faith. Yes.
If you want to take your question again, you ask the question.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Right. If I had the case of Father Poisson again, would I ask for the bishop or a bishop, if I could find one, to officially ordain him? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Right? I've arranged multiple. Remember, I've done this many times already. I've already done this many times. Father John Bosco, some of the priests want to remain anonymous. I don't know why it's that helpful to remain anonymous. But I've helped Father Anonymous A, Father Anonymous B, Father Anonymous C, right? To be conditionally ordained, and other priests not anonymous, such as Father John Bosco being the last one, and Father Poisson, and Father Voigt, right? So each of these priests, I recognize they're valid priests, and I have them conditionally ordained because of the crisis in the church, right? So the exact same reason they were conditionally ordained. See, when the priest came to the seminary, when I was a seminarian, Archbishop Lefebvre was still alive, and the priest came and celebrated Mass. I served them. The priest came and heard confessions. Anybody wanted to go to the confession of that priest? And then, afterwards, he was conditionally ordained. So he was allowed to function as a priest before the conditional ordination and afterwards. Why? Because he recognized that they're priests. Right? I was assigned usually to serve those priests because we would do a conditional ordination. So one of the days we would be down for the conditional ordination. The other days I would be serving them. And so Father Carlos Casamontes is one of them. He's attorney at St. Peter priest now. And I served his conditional ordination along with other priests who were conditionally ordained with him. And so the way that Bishop Williamson says it is, you knew there's like a shadow of a doubt. There's not really a doubt, but there's a shadow of a doubt. So just to make sure that everything is clean, we'll go ahead to remove every people's questions. You seem to be of the opinion of like Father Perez, which I understand, it's a legitimate opinion. You seem to be of the opinion of Father Perez, which is that if they're really valid, don't do it, forget it. And if they're not valid, do it. It's a very black and white opinion, and it's legitimate. I don't hold that opinion because of the crisis in the church, right? Yes.
I remember back in the old days, St. Mary's, they got they encouraged you to basically baptize the word. And I didn't learn why they did that. You know, it was all public, very public.
Right.
Back in midnight, and I was, brought up in this church, it's not the word.
Right.
But they really encourage it,
Yes, it's true. And I've dealt with the same thing myself. You were saying there, because I really can't hear you on the recording. And you were saying there that you were baptized traditionally in the 1990s in the old-fashioned society when you were ordained baptized Episcopal, which the Catholic Church recognizes as a valid baptism. And that's true, the Catholic Church does recognize as a valid baptism. And in the old days, we would not do a conditional baptism. In fact, it was strictly forbidden. Before Vatican II, we would be forbidden to do a conditional baptism. However, many of us, after Vatican II, especially the last 30 years, since the 90s, have done conditional baptism when we're not, strictly speaking, supposed to. Like the Methodist case I was mentioning earlier, or the Episcopalians and the Lutherans. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for it. The reason is that when the Catholic Church went nuts, the other churches also went nuts. And there are many cases in which they didn't even do their own ceremonies. So if you're a Lutheran, you're supposed to have been baptized Lutheran. Should have been. But there are cases now where they're not doing it. So therefore, even though we're not supposed to do it, it's true, we're not supposed to, same problem. However, we know there are cases in which the Protestants didn't even do the ceremony that the Protestants are supposed to do. And therefore, we say just do the conditional baptism, just to be on the safe side. So it is true that we often do that. It's a very similar type of thinking that, okay, we know normally we're not supposed to conditionally baptize you. That's why we usually do both, the conditional baptism and the conditional confession and the conditional reception into the church, knowing that one of them works. And we make sure you do a thorough confession because we figure your baptism is not valid. So we do a conditional, we do all three of them, right? They must have done that with you, probably all three, right? Yeah.
We didn't have to confess.
Right, but if you were baptized Episcopal, you should have had the confession also. And there are also cases where the individual priest forgets what he's supposed to do and does the wrong thing. Just gets as a human being. He just forgets. When I don't think I'm supposed to do that. Yeah, well, you are, or no, you're not. Just a mistake. And even though it would be a mistake to not do the ordinary confession, when you went to your next confession, it covers it anyway. It covers it all anyway. You went through whatever your first confession was. So, you have the question of this conditional ordination, why do it? And there again, I've already explained very clearly, as we have done multiple times, the theological reasons why the ordination rite must be accepted as valid. Are people going to accept that? Many will, of course. But are all people going to accept that? No, they're not. Now, what do you do with those people? For the sake of those people, if we can do a conditional ordination, we go ahead and do it. We don't have to, obviously. But for the sake of those people who conditionally ordained, do it. Some of them don't care, because some of them, they don't really care. They're just out to attack. For those ones, there's nothing we can do. But there are some souls who really want to know the right thing to do is, right? So when I had Bishop Ambrose conditionally ordained Father and Son, it's because I had no doubt of any kind concerning the consecration of Archbishop Ambrose. He was consecrated in the Orthodox Cathedral in 1976 in Chicago. And I found the certificates and some witnesses and affidavits. However, in January of this year, 2019, I got the runaround from the very priest, Orthodox priest, who verified for me 100% 4 years ago that it definitely happened. So then all of a sudden I go from certitude without any reason to doubt. All I was doing was just checking up, pick up some extra, getting to write something, handing something over to me. That was all. And then I get the runaround, and then all of a sudden I'm not able to fully verify anymore. So that's it. Now that's the reason why I can't Archbishop Ambrose. And, so that in the case of the conditional ordination, it's a conditional ordination. We already know it's a priest anyway. But in the case of absolute ordination, no way. Not going to take any chances, right? And so therefore it's condemned. Yeah.
Priest comes to you, conditionally ordained. He knows for sure.
Right, okay. If a priest comes to me and refuses to be conditionally ordained, I'll do like Archbishop Lefebvre did and our superiors did before, and then just take it on a case-by-case basis. Because some priests who refuse to be conditionally ordained have problems that come with them, and I'm concerned about their profession of faith and so on, not going to be inserted. One example that I did allow is Father Voigt. See, Father Voigt came to the tradition in 2005, and Father Voigt was not conditionally ordained. I thought he was, but he actually wasn't. And he served in Syracuse with Father Hugo for 5 years, and for my brother, and he was never conditionally ordained. He was saying Mass, hearing confessions, and functioning as a priest, and they left him alone, no problem. And then he came to Kentucky in 2012, and I thought he was conditionally ordained. I made him the pastor of the church, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, the local church. And then August or September. And then about November, I found out somehow by talking to Father Hugo and Father Voigt, he wasn't conditionally ordained. I said, what do you mean you weren't conditionally ordained? I wasn't conditionally ordained. I've already had you saying Mass here, August, September, October, and November. I called Bishop Williamson. He was going to come over in December. I said, when you come over, can you please conditionally ordain Father Voigt? He said, sure. I did not take him off the Mass circuit. He was already saying Mass, hearing confessions. I already had him on it. So I left him on it. And he kept saying Mass in November, December. Father Hugo and myself stayed with him, no problem. And then on December 31st, or January 1st of that year, 2000, it was December 31st, I think, right before midnight, and then on the last day of the year, Father Bishop Williamson gave him a conditional ordination. And we did it secretly, usual routine. And then afterwards, he told people that he was conditionally ordained. But he wasn't conditionally ordained. It was December 31st, 2012. And if I had known he was not conditionally ordained, I would have probably waited to put him in the Mass circuit. But I didn't know. I thought he was. And then I found out he wasn't. Father Hugo knew. Father Hugo lived with him for 5 years. And then I only found out in passing that he was. Because I wasn't living with him. I knew him all that time. But I didn't realize that he wasn't conditionally ordained. And so there's an example of somebody already did put in the Mass circuit with Father Hugo and Father Voigt together there, and back in 2012 without being conditionally ordained, and he was conditionally ordained afterwards. Yeah.
Father Hugo lived with Father Voigt all these years. He wasn't conditionally ordained. Now he's on the line on Carmel because Father son.
Right. Okay. You said like Father Hugo lived for 5 years or so with Father Voigt, knowing he was conditionally ordained, and he didn't leave the society. And then he left Our Lady of Mount Carmel because of the problem of Father Mason's not being conditionally ordained and being doubtful. And that's true, that's a problem. It doesn't make sense, that's true. It's also a sign that it's not necessarily the reason for the season. That's not really the reason for the departure. Because with regard to Father Masson, he was more secure than Father Voigt, because Father Voigt was ordained a priest in 1978 in the new rite by a Novus Ordo bishop, consecrated in the new rite. He was going by a Novus Ordo consecrated bishop. No, excuse me, that bishop was consecrated in the old days. Oh no, it was consecrated in the new rite, I forget. But when they investigated his case, even though it was a modern bishop, Father Voigt told me they said the bishop was a conservative bishop, so they didn't worry about it. And therefore he was told conditionally reordained. That was in 2005, 6, 7. So about the last 15 years, slowly the policy of reordination has been dropped. I believe that the policy of reordination should be continued. And that's why I had Father Croissant conditionally reordained. And again, it's for the sake of the faithful. It is for the sake of the faithful, because they do doubt, even though they should not. I'm dealing with it right now, right? I'm dealing with it right now. Yeah.
I don't suggest what Archbishop was studying has to investigate the Bishop asked.
Right. So what we were saying is, why don't I do what Archbishop Lefebvre did, which is investigate the truth of the ordination. If he's valid, don't conditionally ordain. And that's true that Archbishop did that in the beginning. He did do that in the beginning. But as time progressed, he did more conditional ordinations later on. He never did universal conditional ordinations. And he never ever went back. For instance, the other priests who were not conditionally ordained, he left them not conditionally ordained. But he did, as younger priests were being ordained, do more conditional ordinations due to the fact of his belief about the intentions. Remember, he had a mistaken belief about intentions. Doesn't match dogmatic and moral theology. The Archbishop Lefebvre was not infallible. He taught the truth, he had stood with the faith, and he did the right thing. But here is a case of a kind of a minor mistake. It's an understandable mistake, but it's a minor mistake. Yeah.
I'm talking about Ingo, the 30 wife. They have the 7 wives.
Yes.
But it's almost oil, you really have to believe that they.
Oh, right, yeah. With regard to the endo ordinations, the bishops who do the ordination tend to be the conservative bishops. The bishops that believe more in priesthood and all that, and therefore there's no reason to doubt their intentions, even by this false understanding of intention. However, we need to remember that we don't have to worry about that false understanding of intention, because they only need to intend to do what the church does. That's it. They don't need to intend anything else. So and they did the ceremony. That's all. Nothing more is required. See? Yes.
Who is committing a sacrilege? Who is committing a sacrilege when it's injustice that it's like baptism?
Oh, the rebaptism. Yeah. Okay. When you repeat an unrepeatable sacrament, it is considered a sacrilege normally. So there has to be a good reason to do it. And it has been done in the past. Here's an example in the past. Bishops have conditionally reordained priests in the old days because the priest was scrupulous. And he believed that he had the right intention and he wasn't ordained validly, and he was in mortal sin. And the bishop said, look, you were ordained, you're valid. You were ordained, you're valid. I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. All right, come to my office tomorrow and I'll ordain you in the office. Pull up the pontificale, kneel down, say the prayers, ordain him. Okay? Don't be scrupulous anymore. Now, the bishop is not supposed to do the ordination normally, but because of the good of the soul of the scrupulous priest, for the sake of his soul, he conditionally ordained him. Other reasons to conditional ordination is the case of secret ordinations. Maybe people believe you weren't ordained because you were ordained in secret. Okay, then we'll do a public reordination. That's happened a few times as well. But it's normally, you're not supposed to do it. But remember, here's the rule. All positive laws have exceptions. Right? Only do ordination once. However, there's exceptions. And then the question is, are we doing legitimate exceptions or not? See? And so we're being distracted a little bit by that whole ordination. You were going to say something? I know you're going to have something.
I was thinking if it's only for the sake of the faithful, then
Right. You say, for the sake of the faith, we'll do the ordination. But when I did it with the Bishop Ambrose, it backfired. It didn't help the faithful, right? It helped them for 6 months, but it didn't help them any longer than that. And so therefore it was a mistake when I did that. And I'd say, yeah, that's correct. I think I made a mistake when I looked back. Having Bishop Ambrose was good because it didn't fulfill the purpose. I thought it would, and it didn't. It was a mistake. So I understand that. When we did the conditional ordination, it was for the sake of the faithful, and for the sake of removing their doubts. It didn't work. It did for some, but not for all. Oh yeah, not all the time. Not because of it. It's true. Now, there are many. The Archbishop of Pfeiffer did not. Some of the priests who were traditionally ordained did not doubt their ordination. Archbishop of Pfeiffer ordained them. I served some of those priests. Okay, they didn't doubt their ordination at all, but they were asked to be conditionally ordained, so they accepted it. They understood and they accepted it. Some did doubt. I've met some priests who did doubt their ordination. I've met other priests who did not doubt their ordination, and they were conditionally reordained. You know, and then I've met priests. I already say some names. I've met priests who doubt on Monday and don't doubt on Tuesday and doubt on Wednesday, but on Thursday they don't doubt anymore. So you got to check on the day of the week. You know, which is again part of our crisis. Part of our crisis. And then, so the bottom conclusion is we cannot say that the new rite, matter, form, and intention of the rite itself are invalid. They're valid. If we say they're invalid or doubtfully valid, that is a very grave consequence of saying that the Bishop of Rome, Francis, and Benedict are not bishops, and that means that since 2005 we've had no pope, and we are in a sine-qua-non situation. One cannot make the foolish argument that a man who is a layman ordained to the priesthood or elected to pope is thereby pope. He's not pope until he becomes consecrated a bishop and becomes a successor of St. Peter. It would be a heresy to believe that a layman can be a successor of St. Peter. A layman cannot be a successor of an apostle. You have to be an apostle to be a successor of an apostle. An apostle means bishop. So if you're not a bishop, you cannot be a successor of an apostle. And so and that's all 12. Remember, the bishops of the dioceses are successors of the 11 apostles, and the bishop of the diocese of Rome was the successor of the 12th apostle, St. Peter. So having invalid bishops means if the new ordination rite is doubtfully valid or invalid, that means no pope, no bishops, hierarchy of the church destroyed. That's very grave. And we don't accept that. The problem with the new Mass is not that it's invalid, because new Mass may be valid. It might be valid, might be invalid. You know, because they changed the form in such a way that we're not certain what the answer is. But it's a sacrilege, and it communicates another faith than the one given to us by Christ. Therefore, it's always wrong to go to the new Mass. It is a Protestant, un-Catholic Mass. It's always wrong to go to it. And so we reject it because of its Protestantism, because of its un-Catholicness, and the fact that the new Mass is even doubtfully valid. But even if you accept the new Mass is valid, it's still a sacrilege, and it's still bad, and you still can't go to it. Whenever we go to Noble Social Church, we genuflect in front of the tabernacle, assuming Christ is present. But we do not accept the new Mass, period. With regard to the new ordination rite, we do not doubt that the priest in the diocese is the priest. We don't doubt the bishop is the bishop. We don't doubt the pope is the pope. Unless we have a reason to doubt it. There are some cases in India where I ran across that they changed the ceremony and they didn't even do the ceremony. Are they priests? There's a reason to doubt. If there is no reason to doubt, then I cannot doubt. So therefore, in the case of like Father Hugo with regard to Father Poisson, if he has a reason to doubt, if he can show that for this reason Bishop Timlin, we know Bishop Timlin did not believe in the real presence, Bishop Timlin did not believe in the priesthood, and Bishop Timlin definitely did not have the right intentions. Therefore it's invalid. Okay, prove to me Bishop Timlin does not believe in the priesthood, prove that he doesn't have the right intentions, and then you can argue that there might be invalidity. Even then you can't say it's certainly invalid. And besides, it's a misunderstanding of intention. As regards to ceremony, he did the ceremony. He did the ceremony. Therefore, valid. The ceremony is valid. One of the reasons why the 9 priests left the Society of St. Pius in 1983 is they complained about Archbishop of accepting the new ordination rite as valid. This is a big issue in the United States in 1983. And these priests said, you're saying that the new rite is valid, and you're allowing doubtfully ordained priests to go and say Mass and hear confessions, making all their sacraments doubtful. Archbishop Lefebvre responded, I agree in principle with those 5 priests of the Northeast District. One should not put doubtfully ordained priests in the circuit. I am not putting doubtfully ordained priests in the circuit. I am putting a certainly ordained priest in the circuit. I am not allowing Father Starks or any other priests to be able to say Mass and hear confessions because they're doubtful. Well, I'm certain that they are priests. If I doubted their ordination, I would make them be conditionally ordained. But I didn't do that. I don't doubt it. Therefore, I am allowing them to continue. Yes?
Father, if you don't doubt the ordination, why would you ask to be ordained?
Right, it's the same question. Right, same question. No. If I don't doubt, why do we have to conditionally ordain? For the exact same reason I said before. For the sake of the faithful and for the sake of the priests. Right? Now, Archbishop Lefebvre, later on, he did say, that's true, that he didn't do that in the early 80s. He did not. Later on, when I was a seminarian, later on, it was never universal, but it was far more regular, the reordinations, when I was ordained, when I was a seminarian in 88, at the very last year of Archbishop Lefebvre's life, and I served those ordinations. I was more regular at that time, and the reason was because of he doubted the intentions of the young bishops, right? No, I don't. Because of the doubt of the people. Same reason. For pastoral reasons. You can do things for pastoral reasons, and it's a judgment call, and you can have the opinion that it's wrong to do it, and you have the opinion that it's right to do it. And in the practice of the church, many times in the battlefield, we do things that, strictly speaking, on paper, you're not ideally supposed to do. I'm a battlefield warrior. We work in the battlefield, and we have to try to help souls, and this does help some souls. It does. And that's true. That's with regard to Bishop Ambrose. But with regard to, it's true, damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's true. But the thing is, it's not totally true, because generally, when we have priests conditionally ordained, most people just accept it. Well, generally, it's not a problem. Sometimes it is, but very rare. In my case, because I'm attacked about every single thing that I do, anything I do is going to be damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's true. However, still want to do things as much as possible according to the method and practice of the society. And Father Peter Scott, Father Pierre Marie brought up their articles proving the validity of the new ordination rite, consecration rite, the episcopacy, in order to clarify to all faithful, Bishop Joseph Ratzinger truly is the Bishop of Rome. Bishop Francis Bergoglio truly is the Bishop of Rome, and therefore they are the popes. Benedict no longer, now Francis. That's the principal reason. And then secondly, of course, we're still connected with those bishops, and that we pray for them for their conversion. And when they convert, then no problem, right? But look at the mess, like Archbishop Lefebvre talked about when we're going to say Epicondism. What if the church converts tomorrow? Then what? Now you got 5,000 bishops that all of a sudden got to be reordained. Maybe. Then you got 100,000 priests that got to be reordained. How many of them are going to accept it? A bunch of them will refuse. And now, for the rest of the history of the church, you got to do like a Mormon family tree, right? You got to have a rope of Mormon come behind you to check on all the family tree. You know, which bishop did that, which bishop did that. You got to go back and reordain them back in time. You got an impossible situation on your hands. However, if you have a valid priest who's committing mortal sins and teaching heresy, stop committing mortal sins. Start teaching the faith. Bang, we're good. You got an invalid priest. Start teaching the faith. That's nice. It's really touching. But it doesn't help. Not a priest. So you see, it's a big, big difference. You see, it's a big, big difference, right? So I know we have to go here, but anything else? But not yet.
You wonder if like 10 places
condemned, because he doesn't pass the test. Bishop Ambrose is regular Unitarian, donate, it looks, whatever, quick, So, I've got nothing against him, but he's condemned. He's busy. He's got to go excommunicate people now. He's got things to do. But the thing is that, it's just simply, he's condemned. I've got nothing against him, but he's condemned. I'm not using him. Allowing him to be used for the ordination of Father Masson last year, which I did for the sake of the faithful, and in order to verify his consecration ordination thing. I told Father Masson, I don't doubt your ordination. I told him that. He doesn't doubt, of course, either, but for the sake of the faithful, we're doing this. It's no problem. If for the good of the faithful, no problem. Well, it turned out to backfire. So now we get him conditionally ordained again. We get a whole list, we'll get up a tag for each. You think you're ordained? I'm ordained. They do that in the same context anyway. They love that. Get ordained 10, 15 times. One of them is bound to kick in. The problem is they don't have a bishop. That's right. Our Lady will have to provide this one, and I believe that she will. She will. And right. Yes, go ahead.
There are some who will claim that the new rite is a Protestant rite, and hence a bad tree cannot produce good fruit. Likewise, there are some who will say that the new rite has dubious oils. How do we address this?
Oh, the dubious oils. Okay, so you're saying some say that the new rite is a Protestant rite, and that a bad tree cannot produce good fruit, and that secondly, they have doubtful oils in the new rite. Number one, the new rite is a Protestant rite, and therefore can't have good fruit. The new rite is a Protestant rite. It is a wicked and evil rite, and it is worthy of condemnation. Father Pierre Marie explains that well in his article on the Episcopal consecration, in which he quotes our Sister Lefebvre saying, this new rite, this new priesthood is non-Catholic, it's bad. Which means we condemn their whole concept of priesthood, we condemn their whole way of looking at the modern church, which is not Catholic. It's evil. That's the rite. And the rite does not produce good fruit. It's a wicked rite, produces no grace. However, that's the rite. The sacrament equals matter, form, intention. Matter given to us by Christ, form given to us by Christ, and then the minister, to this correct minister, and the intention to do what the church does, which is easily provided for. So when those things are present, Christ is really present in the soul. He's really a priest, but he's a priest ordained in a systematic rite, and that's bad. That's why Paul said, but however, all he has to do is he remains a valid priest, and all he needs to do is get rid of his connection with the schism, and that is no longer be a Novus Ordo Church priest, no longer say the New Mass. And I served one conditional ordination, which I didn't arrange. Another priest arranged it. I wouldn't have arranged it, but I did serve it. And in that conditional ordination, the priest was still saying the New Mass. This is after the resistance. And I told the priest, Father, I don't get people who just ordained when they're going to still say the New Mass. He's still saying the New Mass. No, he's friends of the resistance. So, Archbishop Williamson conditionally ordained him. I did serve it along with the other priests. I mentioned my concerns. I don't like this new, priest saying the New Mass being conditionally ordained. But he's conditionally ordained. Of course, he's a valid priest. But he's saying the New Mass. You shouldn't be saying the New Mass. I've got a problem with saying the New Mass. I've known this priest for multiple years. I've been trying to get this priest to come over to tradition, and he never did. He's still saying the New Mass as far as I know today. And and with regard to the second point, which was, the second one was?
Dubious oils.
Oh, dubious oils. With regard to dubious oils, for some reason, Father Hickles mentioned that 2 or 3 times in his sermon, right before talking about ordination, which creates confusion. Oils have nothing to do with the sacrament of holy orders. Oils are used as a matter of the sacrament of confirmation, along with imposition of hands, and oil is used as a matter for the sacrament of extreme unction. If you have non-olive oil, those 2 sacraments will be invalid. Oil has nothing to do with the validity of the sacrament of priesthood. When I was an priest, I put my hands in front of the bishop, and he put the oil of catechumens on my hand. That's a part of the rite, or a part of the ceremony of the church. It is not part of what Jesus Christ did at the Last Supper. He didn't do that. And it is not part of the matter and form of the sacrament of holy orders. It is a ceremony which shows the holiness of the priesthood. If it's skipped, it's skipped. If it's done, it's done. But if you don't put the hands on the head, it's invalid. Just like if a priest says the entire Mass, but he skips the consecration, no Mass happened. If he skips the rest of the Mass and only says the consecration, you are at Mass. So it's the matter and form that matters. Oils are not part of matter and form of the priesthood. Yes, the Protestant rite is bad and does not give good fruit. But it's not the Protestant rite that makes a priest or makes one baptized. It's the ceremony of Christ. I'm baptized. Or you're a priest. In the case of our Apostolic Cure, Pope Leo XIII said, the new rite of the Anglican orders are invalid because the rite only says, receive the Holy Ghost. And it doesn't say for what. Therefore it's invalid. Not specific enough. But then it must say, receive the Holy Ghost to be priest. Receive Holy Ghost to be bishop in some way. It didn't do it in any way, therefore the form was invalid. And that's the reason for the invalidity of the orders. And so anyway, I think that's probably sufficient here, I think, but anything else there? What's going on? Yes. Oh, yes, yes. Archbishop of yeah, but obviously we have to get the benefit of the doubt. Well, the benefit of the doubt. So that if someone says it's a priest, you accept them as a priest. If they say they're a Catholic, you accept them as a Catholic. Unless you have a reason to doubt, which is, you said you were a priest, but you got a wife and 27 kids. You're running the local business down the street, and you never even heard of Christ. And you don't know how many sacraments there are. You don't know what the Catholic Church is, how to pronounce Catholic. I don't think you're a priest. You've got a reason to doubt. Now, if you don't have, but when a man says he's a priest, you can accept it. You can't check everything. St. Robert Bellman is the one who very much promoted that teaching against the Protestants, because he says the Catholic Church is visible. And he says a man professes the faith by just simply saying, I'm a Catholic. Which means he professes what the Catholic Church teaches. You can't do a catechism test. Besides, you might even give the wrong test. So if he says he's Catholic, he's Catholic. That's it. That's the reason why when someone from the Soto comes in, the conciliar church is a false church. But the people that are baptized in the conciliar church are baptized Catholics. And they call themselves Catholics. So therefore we assume that they are Catholics. And only God knows which ones truly belong to the conciliar church. And God will be their judge. When the person comes in, I'm a baptized Catholic. I go to the St. John the 23rd church down the street. Okay, that's bad. Not a saint. And he was a bad pope. And there is a real John 23rd church, and if you know in Colorado, I had to deal with John 23rd all the time. It's a church at Fort Collins. In fact, they have a Latin Mass there. You can go to the Latin Mass at John 23rd. You know, so, no, I accept them as Catholics. I don't accept John 23rd as a saint, but I accept them as Catholics, and that's it. You know, we reject the errors, we reject the heresies, we don't reject the individuals. Anything else there before we make it around? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the prayer.